I'm gonna let her go. Hi,
Right,
everybody.
best.
Welcome to day 2 of your fall glow up. We're so happy you're here. We're talking about medicinal broths and soups. We're going to make a really very traditional soup to use to alkalinize your blood, to do a detox. Many of you do drink green juices. Like Kara, my good friend, she loves green juice. It
I do.
makes feel good. She does not use it as a meal replacement. Kara uses it as an extra, as a beverage to alkalinize, to feel really good. I think it just makes you feel super clean, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just feel better. I think green juices help me detox and they give me all these antioxidants. And I know that when we talk about antioxidants, one of the most common ones you think about is vitamin C, right? And literally everything I eat has vitamin C. Anytime you eat a salad, anytime I eat a smoothie, all my stuff is vitamin C. But I did find out on the genetic test that we did, Hillary, that I need more vitamin C than you, for instance.
You do.
And that more than most people. And, I have a very special press for my citrus, oranges, limes, lemons, and everything because I do them so much because I need more vitamin C than most people. And I crave those things. And I did as a child. So it's like you have to go with what you like. And I like green juices, but I will tell you, they're super dangerous for the blood sugar. So I cannot have one alone. I'm not advocating for people having them alone. Eat them with your meal, right?
And more veggies and fruit. But what I'm trying to, it's the weather is cold. I've got my turtleneck on. It's raining in California today. And in Connecticut, it's obviously very cold. And so what we want to do is inspire you to use healing foods to serve as a way to have a clean out meal. So this could be perfect for the day after Thanksgiving when everybody else is eating leftovers and mashed potatoes and you're like, I just don't feel like I could stuff another piece. I mean, you might be able to eat some leftover pumpkin pie, but you know what I mean? You want a little green, or this is great after if you have a big holiday night and you drank a couple glasses of champagne more than you should. This is a great way to just clean out. I'm not advocating that this is all you do. It's just your food and I'm going to show you one of the ways that I make natural foods more fun is that I'm not rigid about recipes, and I am inspiring you to be the same. So we're talking about healing broths. If you've done our detox programs, you know that we use a lot of broths, especially in the winter months, because there's a ton of gut benefit. And that classic chicken soup recipe, chicken broth recipe, bone broth is incredible for the gut. We recorded a video several years ago in this kitchen for a detox for our fertility group. So we'll have that linked here because I'm not making a traditional bone broth today, but we want you to know that it's so easy to make from home and it's so easy to add to your cooking to augment and increase the nutrient density.
And I'll often be working with you, Hillary, and you're drinking broth. You have a mug in the afternoon, or even if it's at breakfast, whatever time of day. And so it's kind of a different way of thinking about broths. And we first learned this from our Chinese professors out in Seattle, remember? This was part of our curriculum in traditional Chinese medicine was how do you make broths? And it's sort of interesting because this is a different way of thinking. Even for me, I had studied herbalism for many years before that. And I was taught, how do you make teas and decoctions and strong medicine like that? But it wasn't just a food kind of thing, like what kind of roots can we add to our broths? What kind of herbs can we add to our broths? And Hillary's going to show us some mushrooms and things today to make it really medicinal. So this is like a whole expanding your thought on soups. This is beyond soup. This is just basic nutrition for throughout the day. So if you like a kind of savory taste like this, which is so delicious and so satisfying actually all through the winter months, you're going to love this recipe.
And I mean, I loved when I lived in Madrid and you go skiing in Spain, they have along the mountain all of these broth stations, and you go and you get, they call it caldo, and you go and you get your caldo, and they definitely put sherry in it for sure in Spain. So they're spiking their hot broth. But I love that tradition. And yeah, many of my patients are patients, if we're doing detoxes, if we're doing something, everyone wonders what to do for breakfast. And many women, as we're seeking hormone balance, we actually need salt. And we try to get people to move away from thinking that the only thing you can have are eggs if you're craving something salty, or so, you know, these very rigid breakfast meals that we have in the United States. Like, we can open it up, and having a soup in the wintertime is one of the most nourishing things that you can do for yourself. You're breaking your fast with something that's extraordinarily nutrient dense. You're getting a ton of your daily vegetables in there. We want you in the winter to be eating many servings of vegetables. And it's hard because it's cold. So you're not really eating the salads. And I find a lot of winter salads have like a ton of blue cheese on them or whatever, you know, because people are trying to make them more hearty. But one of the ways to do it is with a soup. And so you're going to see under this video a very basic recipe. And this is called the Bierler's broth. This is a very traditional healing broth that's used when people are recovering from cancer, or when they have a chronic illness that they're recovering for, and that you can assimilate minerals easily. Now, we're going to make twists and turns. We're going to Hillary and Kara it, because this broth, if you made the traditional Bierler's broth, you would like maybe gag on it. It's not the tastiest thing. And you actually get to eat food that's super tasty. There's no reason not to. So the Bierler's broth recipe doesn't have salt in it, because this was created as a way, like I said, to nurse people out of very chronic illnesses, or right after chemotherapy or something like that. So we're giving you the updated version and adding some of our personal twists and turns, and inviting you to clean out your fridge with this. If you have some kale that's not looking amazing, or cabbage that looks a little sad. I don't have green cabbage today. I just have purple, and I'm going to choose not to put the purple in, because purple cabbage really discolors the whole soup, which is fine, but you can clean it out. Okay. And I'm going to add a few things that we love. If you know Dr. Kara and I, you know that we love cinnamon and ginger, especially in the fall months. All of our detoxes have this tea. And so I'm going to add some ginger to my broth. The broth doesn't call specifically for onion, but I cannot make a soup without onion, because that's weird. So I'm adding several onions. Onions are an incredible source of bioflavonoids and quercetin. If you didn't know, quercetin is one of the main molecules that helps zinc enter into cells so that we fight off viruses. So onions, if you can tolerate them, are excellent. And I'm adding celery. Celery is in the recipe, but I love celery because it's a form of natural salt. And there's zucchini in the recipe, and green beans. But again, literally, you guys, it could be anything. And then what these do is they cook down for a little bit. And I'm adding shrooms. This is a bag of frozen mushrooms that I found, and I was so fired up, because this means that you can have these on hand. You don't have to run. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I buy shrooms and I don't cook them on time. And then there's just like decomposing shrooms in my fridge. That is not my favorite mission. So this is like an exciting win, these organic shiitakes. And then I did buy yesterday this gorgeous.
You did it with that knife.
Sorry. I'm super dangerous. I'm like the Swedish chef, like from the Muppets, like I don't have the best kitchen practices, but I make it hella fun, and I make the biggest mess. Okay, but
and it's delicious.
This is a maitake mushroom, And Takis have a lot of health benefits. So Kara's going to talk to you a little bit about it while I slice and dice for you.
Yeah. So actually, it's so funny. Pauline, the nutritionist that works with our clients, and is just amazing at. I think Pauline, one of her specialties is finding food that's not ridiculously expensive but really good quality. So she'll go to Costco and find like the best finds. So one time she shows up at the office with this package of mushrooms a few weeks ago, and it had maitake and all these different kinds of mushrooms. It was organic. With mushrooms, when you're buying them, it's so important that they're organic because they really are very water rich, and anything that's water rich, if there's chemicals, it's going to just soak in the chemicals, like a lettuce, right? Lettuce we probably want to buy organic, and kale. So she shows up with this pack, and it was amazing to do a broth with. So I did do a broth with it. And the other way you can buy mushrooms is that any dehydrated dried mushrooms, if you have a Asian section or a Japanese section of a grocery store, if you go in and look, the dried mushrooms are amazing because you actually don't need to eat the mushroom in the broth. The medicine is water soluble. So you are essentially making a tea. That's what a broth is, right? So you're just getting the medicine out of the mushroom. It doesn't matter the texture. It doesn't matter if it's woody and hard and you're like, this thing looks inedible. Buy those because they have awesome carbohydrates and chemicals for your immune system, and try them and just throw them into your broths. It's a really traditional thing. For Koreans, after they give birth, they do this mushroom and seaweed broth. So seaweed is also another thing that you might not think to put in your broth. But if you have any kind of seaweed at your house, it could be nori, it could be kombu, it could be anything you have. Hijiki, whatever, just throwing a little bit in your broth, you get all the minerals from the seaweed that's really good for us in the broth. So anything that's water soluble is going to come out in the broth. And that's why we're getting all these really nice constituents that are good tonics for our mucous membrane. So we're coming back to let's support people's immune systems throughout the winter here, and let's really nourish our GI tracts with these broths. So I like mushrooms in a lot of ways, but I will tell you that I don't really like to eat them necessarily. And so using them in broths and in soups, and you could use this broth that you make to make your quinoa, to make your farro. I know that Pauline, the nutritionist, is always teaching people how to make farro over here. You could use that broth instead of water in any of your recipes. You could use this broth as the base for your tomato soup or your butternut squash soup or anything like that. So it's really cool because it'll last in a glass jar in the fridge for at least a week. A lot of people freeze these broths and take them out in sort of individual packets. They'll take out a day supply, something like that. But it's all about just taking the time to make it like that.
I always have a broth.
Yeah.
You guys, when you freeze things, obviously you need a little space because it'll blow up your jar if you fill it all the way to the top once it freezes and condenses. But this, I always try to have broth so that I have really 3 jars. And this is turkey season, and my favorite thing to do is to make turkeys. So I actually buy extra turkeys so that I can make a ton of stock for the months to come, because I think turkey stock's the best thing on the planet. But okay, I just want to show you. This is just so easy. And Kara's right. The part of the mission here is I'm making a green soup, but you don't have to do it that way. You could extract the broth, cook the veggies down and just extract the broth. My concept here is that I'm softening everything, cooking everything. Again, the original recipe has no salt. It's calling for only gut healing and antioxidant rich foods. I'm adding a little bit of oil, a little bit of salt, because I want it to taste delicious. There's no way I'm eating food that doesn't taste delicious, but I'm using the base in this concept of this highly mineral rich and alkalinized. Alkalinizing means that we're creating a blood that makes it harder for infection to thrive, that makes it harder for cancer to thrive. That's a whole doctors in demand talk that we'll get to.
We should.
So I'm adding 2 ginger nubs, and ginger might not be your jam, so don't do it. But for me, anywhere I can add a little something medicinal makes me happy. The other thing I'm adding to this, and I'm going to have Kara talk to you about it. And I know if you're watching this, I'm taking a pause. Some of you watching this are the kinds of people that really want all the info, and they want it detailed, and they want it written just so. And I'm so sorry, because I have a hard time delivering like that, because I don't live like that. And in the kitchen, it's just the place where you could allow yourself to play. You can't do it wrong. You can't do it wrong. Somebody asked me by the shrink.
I'll answer that, but can I say to you that recently I had a Ukrainian grandmother. I'm always talking to people about their recipes, which is how I learned about the Korean seaweed and mushroom soup as a traditional soup to build women up after childbirth. I mean, creating a baby is a lot of hard work, and your immune system does do an incredible shift to do that. It's actually incredible what happens, like mind-boggling. And so that soup helps your immune system get back regulated, where you're just like fighting regular viruses and all that, and not like your DNA that is combined with some other person's that you should actually be fighting. If you're in pregnancy, your immune system's doing something it's not supposed to be doing, right? It's not attacking the other. So if that broth can help a woman's immune system and their blood build and their bodies get back to the regular kind of immune base, we know it's really good for us. But anyway, I digress. This Ukrainian grandmother, I want to tell you her recipe, Hill, because I made it. It's actually really cool. You're going to like this. So Hillary and I do bone broth soups probably since we stopped.
Just showing everyone. These are the shiitakes, the frozen cut shiitakes. It's so genius.
It's so cool.
I got these at Sprouts.
Yeah. And so
Whole Foods, they would have them, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So when you're buying mushrooms, I'll get back to the story of the grandmother, but when you're buying mushrooms, dried mushrooms are totally fine to buy for these broths. And so usually it's sort of like buy where the tamari is and that kind of thing in the grocery store. There's some dried mushrooms. Looking for organics, really important. You do not really want to buy the fresh, is it button mushrooms or those white mushrooms, Hillary? We don't really advise getting those because they're not really the more medicinal ones. The more medicinal ones, portobello definitely has some medicinal qualities, but it's more toward the shiitake, maitake, those ones that get kind of harder and more woody. So if you have a fantastic farmer's market, that's really cool to buy mushrooms there because you know that they're sort of locally harvested, and that's really fun to do broths with in the summertime. But like I said, even Costco has an amazing organic mushroom combo that is just like to die for. You go to Costco. It's crazy how inexpensive that was and great. So I just wanted to say about adding things to a chicken broth. So this woman told me, people love my chicken broth. I add turmeric to it for color. So you could be adding turmeric to this. It could be dried powdered turmeric. It could be the actual root, right, Hillary? And then you're going to get a bright, kind of more orange colored, yellow colored, beautiful soup. She adds dried mustard to it, which adds a little bit of a bite to it. She adds ginger to it. And I think she does dried ginger instead of the fresh ginger Hillary does. And she adds lemon juice. If you're watching and I forgot an ingredient, I'm sorry, but that's how I did it. What I remember you said. And the lemon juice at the end after gave it a little bit of acid and was so good in it. And I usually don't do that. So that was kind of a new thing. So these broths you can play around with quite a bit. And really any herbs you like. Say you're a person who loves rosemary. You have this like nice feeling about rosemary. Why wouldn't you put rosemary in your broth? Throw a bunch of it in. And then you'll have that taste you like. What if you like oregano? Some people do like oregano.
So I'm putting in one of the key ingredients for this broth, and I think any broth is parsley. And I add these aromatic herbs at the end, and that kind of blasts the broth. These don't need to cook long. Cilantro is an amazing detox herb. So if you like a little spicier, a little zestier, you could also put a jalapeno in here if you want it a little bit brighter. Jalapeno, cumin. So everything can kind of work to your taste. Like I'm going to do some cayenne because we like things spicy up in here. We put sriracha on a lot of things. But so I just kind of want you to see the imperfection. Okay. This is a ton of celery, 3 onions, the mushrooms, the maitake. I cut up zucchini and green beans. So that's the base of this very healthy healing broth. The celery, zucchini, green beans, and parsley. That's what you're going to see in the recipe. I added onion, mushrooms. I added astragalus. I added ginger. So I'm making a full-on funky mix. What I'm going to do is basically make a tea, right? That's what broth is. So these are the vegetables. Filtered water is really important.
How long do you need to cook it, Hillary?
Well, you just need to actually cook this until the vegetables are soft. I'm choosing not. I at the beginning was like, I'm going to put oil. When you watch me make the chicken broth, you'll see I start with oil and I brown the bones because that makes it like extraordinarily flavorful. This one I'm going to keep really, really healthy. So this is like a no oil situation, which means I added the water right away. I'm obviously salting it because I could never eat soup without salt. Like that's not how I roll. And I don't need to, like, thank goodness women need salt. Like,
unless the only people who really, the salt is an issue are people with high blood pressure, right? So people on blood pressure medication, they're the people watching for the salt. People who have adrenal exhaustion and
most women.
Yes, they need a lot of salt. People who exercise a lot, you need salt.
So I put a ton of cayenne because we like it hot. And then I'll do pepper and salt. What I'm going to do is, you could, like Kara was saying, you could just use this water as a broth. So anytime you're making a soup, you just bring things up to the top and boil. Sometimes there's a film. Usually if you're not using meat, there's less of a film. You just get that film off. And then you simmer and close, and you're extracting the minerals into the water. So if you wanted to make this the green soup, which was sort of my intention to show you because it's something really different, the winter version of a green juice or something, you have all the fiber of these vegetables. And then that's when you would either pour it into a big blender or use an immersion blender. Either one. The immersion blenders make a crazy mess, but they're so flippin' fun and satisfying. So, if you do it, just make sure if you pull up on it, you're going to get green exploders.
Mine doesn't make a mess at all. The thing is, like, one of the best purchases in my kitchen.
I'm the messiest. But it's so much easier in immersion blender than like pouring it into a blender and doing batches. That just is such a drag. So at the end, I'm going to put in my parsley. I'm going to put a tiny bit of cilantro because, like I said, we like a little kick in my house, and the cilantro is great for detox. And then I've got a green soup that I will maybe freeze some of it and then nurse it kind of through the weekend as I'm prepping my body for a big old holiday week. I host a lot of parties during Thanksgiving. So that's upcoming, and I'm just getting myself ready. I do not want to get sick. So, okay, we have been going on, and it is time to wrap up. But thanks for joining us. Day 2 of your glow up. Make yourself a green soup and just watch what happens. Know that you can always put a little fresh orange or fresh lemon right when you serve it for a really delicious pop and brightness. So that's happening. You can do that too. Much love, everybody.